then, we'll go ahead and jump in here. Nothing really changed from when we talked at the end of the year. Meal allowances are still set at $9.12. Just when we turn them in, we need to make sure that we have all the forms taken care of. So if you take this is page 14. If you take a credit card, make sure the credit card's on there, and the receipts that you're turning in, how many people are there, how many coaches, how many kids, and the bus driver, if you have a bus driver, just make sure we have all that stuff filled out so that we can keep track, because coming down the road is going to be some budget cuts, and we just need to make sure we know where we're spending all of our money, so we have an idea where we can cut and where we can't. Alright, so make sure that form's filled out. Again, for the high school athletics, those come to me so I can sign them. Activities, high school goes to Mr. Crawford, middle school athletics goes to Rhonda, and middle school activities go to Clark. If this form is, or the whole packet is, so I'm gonna put that so it's on there, a separate spot, so that's, you guys can have it.
Just make sure that you're not just turning in a pile of receipts. Anytime you turn in receipts, there should be some kind of documentation with them, whether it's a credit card form or a requisition, something that identifies who, what, when, and where. And when you go out to meals, make sure you're putting down the number that eat, not the number that you took with you.
So like if I go on golf and someone leaves, I can't spend that money on that extra money on those kids. I had something else. Oh, make sure the kids are taking $1 to do the tip if you go to a place that tips. If you go to McDonald's, no problem, but if you go to Perkins or something, make sure the kids take at least $1 to help tip for those meals. And you can adjust it so they still get that 15%, but uniform rotations still, I don't think is updated for middle school. So high school is working on track right now. So the middle school one, I think they're still, I didn't change that. Yeah. And there's all the coaches' duties listed here. You can go through them, we don't need to read it by page, but at the beginning of the year, you need to make sure that you have everybody who is eligible. I think, did you just send that to me? Or did you send that to everybody? Of who you had? Everyone got a list of who's turned in paperwork so far? Okay. So there's that list. If you have anyone else new to that, then make sure we get that to Jeremy so she can update her stuff. And they can't participate until we have that stuff turned in. And then at the end of the year, make sure we get all the equipment turned in instead of having Jeremy collect it at the end. Transportation, we are doing a deal on Monday. That's during regular in-service. So if you drive a vehicle for the school district of any sort, you need to be at that meeting. So if you take them on a camp in the summer, you take a school vehicle, might as well just go to that thing, so it's that. But it's during in-service, so it's just part of the day. So if you plan on transporting any kids in a school vehicle, you should be at that meeting.
Even if you don't plan on it, you get it, because you may.
Yeah.
So,
When is that meeting?
Monday, it's during in-service on Monday.
because you may be assigned.
It's from 8 to noon.
8 to noon, you said, on Monday.
Yeah.
So it's part of the in-service, so might as well just go anyway. Get it prepared. With the transportation, there is a new transportation form that we have to fill out for everything. Dr. Stevens has been working on that.
She sent out the link to it. It's on the Google Drive. I sent that link out just a few minutes ago.
Okay.
Okay, I sent it to the high school staff. So Mr. Coberly, I'll let you send it to
I
them.
figured Mr. Lowe was gonna send it out to everybody regardless.
So,
I'll check.
on that, once we get our schedule, we wanna go through all your stuff and make sure the leave times are appropriate, so we don't have to switch leave times the day before. Like I said, Mr. Glow sets up what he thought you should leave. If that's something different than you think you have in mind, let's get that taken care of right now at the beginning of the year, so we can get that done.
I think the biggest thing last year was not that we were opposed to you leaving earlier than was planned, but just the fact that we didn't have much notice as far as times that you want when you wanted to change them. So if you can take a look at your schedules early and say, okay, we need to be gone earlier for this game.
There's a list of all those phone numbers of who you need to contact in case you have problems on the trip. I don't know if you want to plug those into your phone or take a picture of them so you have them. Down list, do you want to talk about on the down list for the high school?
The down list for the high school is going to work this way. The students that are struggling in something or behind in something, what we want to do is make sure that they're in school when school is available. So it's not going to impact their weekend play or evening play that doesn't take them out of the classroom. The down list is more like, it probably won't even be called the down list anymore, but it'll be something about students in need of help or something like that, because it'll be students who are falling behind in classes or students who aren't getting work done for classes, and those students will have to stay rather than miss school. So does that make sense? So there will still be a list, but the list does not impact anything other than school activities that require them to be gone from classes. Of course, as coaches, you can make whatever rules you want. But for the school, that's the way we're going to do it. So let's say, for example, that on Tuesday, we get a list that says that Jenna is behind in English. And on Tuesday night, she has a game that she would miss the last 2 periods for. She's not going to that. But let's say that on Saturday, she has a tournament. She can go to that tournament because she wouldn't be working on schoolwork then anyway. So the idea is it's not punishment so much as just ensuring that they're available to get help when they need it.
So on the day of the contest?
That's a coach's call. I mean, I'm not going to, if they got everything caught up and their game is Thursday night and come Thursday night they have everything caught up, I'm fine with them going to do whatever. But I don't know how much leeway as a coach. I usually needed to know a few days ahead of time who was going and who wasn't going. So you might want to set a cutoff time and say, I need to know by Wednesday night or the day before.
From all the teachers?
Yeah. Whatever teacher came, like on Tuesday, if it came out that they were behind in English, then you would want to know from that English teacher Thursday before you left if they were caught up or not.
So are we coming out with a list on a certain day, or is it just
We
that list
we are going to come out with a list.
on a certain day of the week?
I think on Tuesday, because that will give everybody time to get things up.
Hopefully Thursday, Friday.
But I'm open. I mean, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this too.
So coaches are gonna need to contact that, say, English teacher and make sure that everything is A-okay to go.
If they're going to miss school, yeah.
My only concern with that would be having on Tuesday, a lot of games are on Tuesdays.
Okay.
And so if I find out at 10 o'clock that one kid's missing some work, that doesn't give us a lot of time to get that done.
Would it be
I think
better
I
on
think we did
Monday?
on Wednesdays last year.
You want on Wednesday?
Well, the one thing that is good about Wednesday is you don't have an activity that night.
Okay.
I mean, that's one thing that helps, so then you've got a week to kind of go through it, where if you did have something on Tuesday, very rarely does anybody depart for anything on Wednesday. I do know, I don't know if Deanne does, I don't think anybody departs them on Wednesday. So that, it's a little bit easier, so at least that day, you've at least got some recovery time to.
Yeah, I'm
save
fine
the
with
bacon.
Wednesday.
Whereas any other day of the week, if you waited, you know, like Joe said, 10 o'clock, and,
Mhm.
for those, you know, if you're a high school kid, or if you're a high school, if you're coaching a high school team, and you're not in the high school building,
Mhm.
you don't get a chance to address that with your kid until that night. when
Right.
You leave and that type.
Yeah, we can do Wednesday.
So that, I mean, that might just help.
Any other thoughts, concerns? Because none of this is in stone. I mean, I have the ability, we haven't discussed this with the staff or anything, so,
I guess my only concern, I guess, could be whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday is making, if a teacher notifies you that they're not where they need to be,
mhm,
making dang sure that they're doing things where they're actually able to bring that grade up. Does that make sense?
mhm,
Or like they fail a test on Tuesday and so they're failing,
mhm.
but they don't have anything else going on until Friday, grade wise.
Yeah.
And they come to you Friday and say, because they didn't really have, yeah, there's no opportunity to do that.
Well, in their core classes, in anything using Edivate, the only way that they wouldn't be eligible to go, because they wouldn't fail something necessarily, but they might not be where they need to be, like maybe it's a fourth of the way through the quarter and they're only 10% done with their class because they're not using their time well or something, then that might happen. But then they always have the opportunity to catch up. I mean, the only classes that could happen in would be the elective classes. And I don't know how
So it
to,
does make it tougher on a coach to prepare, like even originally, if you had a down list,
right,
at least on Monday, you knew and you could plan all week that you weren't gonna have that player.
well, we can do it that way. We can say whatever comes out on
But if you
Wednesday,
go
that's it.
Half the week preparing and then Wednesday you find out,
Yeah, it doesn't give you.
it doesn't get, you know,
It's different, yeah, I mean, you're in, yeah, you've got it.
you have a day.
You game plan and everything. Yeah. I think the other dynamic is, it's got to be crystal clear as what that expectation is, because we've just talked about two different scenarios
Mhm.
of a student. One may be failing an elective course, but you could be failing a core course. Your grade may be below 59%, but yet you're still not, you'd still be able to travel just because you've got your assignments in and those, you've progressed,
Well,
like you're on track.
you can't move on though in those classes unless you've successfully demonstrated proficiency. So what they're entering in the grade book is going to be at the point that they demonstrate proficiency. They're not going to enter, if they get an F in integers, Bo's not going to enter an F in grade book. He's going to have them go back and work through that again. And up until the point that they show proficiency in it, then he enters the grade. So in the Edivate, unless we have a student who's absolutely refusing to do anything,
Yeah.
there shouldn't be any Fs. It should all be, this is where they showed their proficiency. So then the challenge becomes making sure they're keeping up where they need to be.
So will there be a timeline that they kind of know where they need to be?
Yes.
Because that's what it sounds like to me, like it's not a downs list, it's more, they have to be a certain percentage of the way done, like.
For their core classes, yeah. Now elective classes are still grading the traditional way, so they could still have an F in there.
So you're saying you'd rather have Monday?
I don't know. I guess, as a coach, yeah, it gives you more time if you know you're not gonna have the kid on, maybe you got a basketball game on Thursday, or we have all our games on Friday, but
Well, and you also know on Monday though, that you could say, hey, you have 2 days before, I mean, I guess it's what I'm
Yeah.
agreeing with that, because then you have, I mean, that, the kid has more time to make sure that they know if they wanna be playing later in the week, that this is how far they need to get.
Maybe we could have a list come out on Monday and then revise on Wednesday.
That's not a bad idea, because if you're giving that caught up so that they can travel, on a school day. That gives them a chance to demonstrate that they improved and they did get that ready to go, because the other thing too is if the terminology is it comes out on Monday and you're not caught up, well, that kid could get caught up on Thursday and be passing the class and should still be out. I think in some respects it's gonna have to be kind of trial and error.
It is gonna be trial and error, like a lot of things we're doing at the high school this year.
And I recommend, and this is just my soapbox, if you err, you err in favor of the students.
Absolutely.
Not the adult's ego. They can, they gotta stay behind. I think if there is a discrepancy, let the kid travel, figure it out.
I think as far as the elective classes go, I think we'll just stick with what it's been in the past, that if you're down in one class 2 weeks in a row, you're not eligible, or if you, but as far as the core classes go, it will be where you're at that week in each class.
Yeah. And I like the idea of giving a kid, you know, put them on notice. If they're failing a class, I mean, if they're failing 2 classes in 1 week, yeah, they should be ineligible. But, you know, if they had a bad week or whatever and down in 1 class, they should be able to have a week to work on getting that up before they are held ineligible.
So if we do for the elective classes, if we do the traditional down list, following the same rules we followed last year, with the exception of if they get it up, they go? Is that what I'm hearing? Sorry.
Just keep the same rules as last year.
Well, that's isn't that what you said is that our policy is if a kid is down in one class, say one elective class in 1 week, that they're just on like a probation
Mm-hmm.
list.
Yeah.
If they're down in that same class for 2 consecutive weeks, then they would be ineligible
Right.
until the next, you know, say Monday or.
Till the next
until
list.
Until the next list comes up.
Okay. So do we want to do that then? For electives, we'll do the same policy we did last year. For core classes, it'll be based on the, what do I want to say, the progress they're making in the classes. The other thing to remember too is every Tuesday and Thursday, for an hour at the end of the day, these kids have an opportunity to work with their teachers and get caught up on things. So I really, unless we have a kid who's just flat saying, I'm not doing it, I just can't see that there's going to be a problem with kids being able to play or to participate.
My question with like core classes,
Mm-hmm.
would be, you know, it's tough to determine whether a kid's passing or not, because you have the schedule, you should be at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Say one kid gets way far, like really far behind,
Mm-hmm.
should be at about 40%, they're at 10%. And then they start getting their act together, they're not eligible, they start getting their act together, and let's say they bump, you know, that week they bump up 20%. But they're supposed to be at 45% now. Even though they made some great progress, they're still not on pace.
That's
because they're
right.
Catching up, are they still ineligible?
They're still ineligible.
So they gotta get to that pace.
Yeah, because one of the big challenges we're going to have is making sure that students are finishing their classes in a timely manner. And so the thing to remember is, though, is this only impacts you taking them out of school. If you're not taking them out of school for something, it doesn't impact them at all.
So is there like weekly progression from where they're supposed to be?
Their
or-
teachers will monitor them, yeah.
Middle school coaches, we will operate with policy from last year. And we will still, very, very similar. We'll look at the missing work list if they're missing. And again,
So I think for all the core classes, it's going to be dependent on the teachers letting us know if somebody's behind or not. So you want that to come out Monday then?
Monday would work for me, I guess. It would work for us.
Okay,
Last one.
so we'll do that Monday then. And I say core classes, but Andy, that includes your health class.
What's that?
That includes your health class,
For the core?
yeah.
So Monday and then a revision on Wednesday?
Mhm. So Jeremy, you might have to remind teachers.
Linda, this is kind of off the, for the coaches, but
Mhm.
for the Edivate classes, does it constantly show the percentage you're
Yeah.
at?
Yeah,
What, daily or weekly or?
I think every time a student goes in and works, it'll show you what percentage they've accomplished, at least
for the
that's,
amount of time they've been doing it?
yeah.
So what you're asking is, could you as a coach go in and look at like a kid's real-time grade? What it
I
actually?
think we can.
I think we can now through Infinite Campus, we can look at our players.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I would think that would take care of a lot of.
Well, it won't show their progress though, Lee. It'll show what their grade is, but they might be 10% done and have an A so far. And they need to be at 30%. But the thing is that the teachers are gonna be on the kids about staying caught up on things and using that Tuesday, Thursday time for those kids who are slipping. And on a weekly basis, teachers can say, you know, you need to spend a little more time on English and a little less time on math, or whatever it is they need to do. We also have the Bobcat time in the morning where teachers will be talking to kids about where they're at as far as their grades go and their progress and stuff like that. So we have a lot of little safety net things in place. My hope is that everybody gets to go to everything. So we'll see. The one thing I'm not quite clear on though, how you want to do. So if we follow the same policy as last year for the electives, that means it doesn't matter whether they get their grade up or not, they're still ineligible.
Well, I think we can talk about that. I mean, we've all had kids that, you know, if they fail a quiz and then they have an opportunity to retake that quiz, you know, a day later, 2 days later, and then their grade gets up. I mean, I think it should be fair if we're erring on the side of the kid, that if they get that grade up before a competition and you get verification from the teacher that, yeah, it's up, that I think they should be allowed to.
I think if you as a coach are willing to check with teachers on where the kids are at, I don't have a problem with that. I'm just really going to depend on you to make sure you're not taking kids who shouldn't be going.
Well, we're still holding kids accountable,
Mm-hmm.
but also giving them an opportunity to get a grade up
Mm-hmm.
and still contribute to a team, and instead of just making a statement, well, if you're down in a class, then you're down for the entire week. I like the idea that, you know, if they can get that up before the next competition, you know, especially in a sport like wrestling or track where, you know, it's not, I mean, I could see Andy's thing where you
Mhm.
want time to plan and prepare for a kid not being there, but in the individual sports, you know, if they can have their grade up by the time the competition starts, they should be allowed to participate.
That's why I would empower you as coaches to make whatever rule you need to make as far as whether they can get it up Thursday afternoon and still go, or whether it needs to be made up a day before the activity, or whatever you're comfortable with. As far as that
Sherry,
time.
off the top of your head, how many kids were ineligible last year because of elective anyhow?
Not many.
Yeah.
Most of them are core
I
classes.
think that's, yeah,
The biggest one would be Spanish.
which could be considered, you know, something.
Yeah, that will be the elective that will get kids.
Okay.
Okay, next one on training rules, basically the three, no drugs, alcohol, any of that kind of stuff. That's section 1. Section 2 is hazing. Section 3 is behavior, games, practices, dress, such like that. So those are the main 3 training rules that we have. Then on the next page, the end of the year banquet, where each activity will present awards for individual activities, letter winners, and participation. Winners need to be given to Jeremy at the end of your season. So as soon as the season's over, get it to Jeremy, so if she's got a boring day, she can get some of that stuff kicked out, instead of 800 of them on Monday before the banquet, Monday night. Okay, so if we get those to her right away, as soon as the season's over. 3-sport, then there's the 2 specific high school awards. There's the 3-sport letter winner, participate in and receive varsity letter in 3 sports, 1 each fall, winter, and spring seasons. Now, I know kind of golf falls into a funky one where you can come out for golf for 6 weeks in the spring or fall and 7 weeks in the spring and still participate that. I have upped my letter requirements in hopes to defend some of that, so you don't just have to come out now and be one of the 5 people that are out for golf and get a letter. So they're actually gonna have to look at it. So they're gonna have to shoot a score that would qualify them at the end of the year tournament. So if they can't do that, then they'll just get the participation and they won't have as easy access at the 3-sport. Any other questions on the 3-sport that we might need to look at? I mean, I want them to be out if it's easier to, not easier, but it would be nice that they're out in 3 sports, but they should have to work at it to get that 3-sport letter winner, I think. Okay, and then the female and male athlete of the year, I typed that out. So at the end of the year, each of the sports for the females will nominate a person, each of the sports for the males will nominate a person, and then just the head coaches. That was my understanding on how we were supposed to do that. Now it's typed out so we can.
And that person's a senior, right?
Yes. So those are our 2 at the high school. I don't know if middle school ones, do you guys have any special that you need to put in here?
We had that certificates.
So,
We're done.
okay.
Do we want to talk about this spring problems?
Yeah, other thing that we talked about with Clark and I was trying to shorten up that end of the year banquet a little bit. So maybe having a little something with your group after the season and handing out some of the individual awards like your letters. And then just bringing at the end of the year banquet, bringing up the team. This is our team, this is what we did. My player of the year for basketball was this and MVP or whatever. So give out those individual special awards for your thing there.
Recognize your all-state, all-conference kids at
Yeah.
that time, but instead of rattling through 35 letter winners.
And participation,
Yeah.
winners and all
Yeah.
that. Any objections to shortening up that end of the year banquet? Okay, so this year, if you have some kind of gathering or give them out at.
Have dinner at the end of your
Practice,
season.
yeah. So that really makes it important to get Jeremy those letter winner stuff before. I think that'll shorten that up, what was it, 3.5 hours this year or something like that? That's a long time. Okay, so football, volleyball, and golf will get to be the first guinea pigs. I guess my year's only 6 weeks, so I'll get to go first. See how we need to adjust for the next. Okay. On the back is a trip itinerary, which is no longer valid because we have the one on the new form on Google Drive, so don't worry about this one. Incident report is still there, just in case something happens, we have an incident report. If, you'll need to fill out. The WHSA participation information, I have it updated now for middle school, that's got the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and the high school with the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. So at the end of the year, this needs to be filled out for each of the sports. I need a copy and you should keep a copy yourself. The credit card form, it says credit card form, but really we could use this for any purchase order, well, purchase order forms, I guess, self-explanatory on it, so. This would be mainly for credit cards, I guess, and make sure those forms are filled. But we need signatures on both that and this from your supervisor, or whoever's in charge of your money. And then on the back is activity fund deposit, so if you have a fundraiser of some sort, fill out this paperwork and hand it in when you hand in your money. So then we know where this money's supposed to go, so we don't have an extra couple thousand hanging out somewhere where we don't know where it's to go. Okay, with that being said, also fundraisers this year at the high school need to go through Mrs. Crawford, and at the middle school need to go through Mr. Coberly. So we're not doing 18 different fundraisers of the same thing on the same night.
So fundraisers that you know right now, you're